What's up, everybody? It's the Bit Hitter. Here's a quick tutorial on today's price action, the S&P E-mini futures contract, and this is specifically dedicated to our new friends from the Yahoo message board who linked to the Merrill Lynch posting that I put on the website, and they said that my interpretation of the buy side was wrong and that it was actually sell side volume. There's two things that we'll address. First of which is that had you been in the S&P futures pit, you would have seen Merrill Lynch buy like 500 contracts down there of the big contract, not the mini, but the big one, when price is coming down. In addition to that, there's a higher level topic that's more important than who was buying what or selling what. But the topic is how to read your chart properly and how to understand buying low and selling high, and also understand how the institutional side is able to navigate through markets with varying degrees of liquidity. What happens in general is that once price is discounted, that's when you will see smart money come in and take a long position, because everybody who's selling is essentially selling to smart money, and smart money is buying. When you have a situation where price is marked up, you will see smart money sell into the strength and basically trade their position for a short position to the dumb money that's coming in buying the tops. So basically that's business 101. That's buy low, sell high, buy low. Today what we saw after the existing home sales number was we saw a substantial amount of volume come through. We saw 140,000 contracts come through on the 5-minute chart. That's exceptionally high volume that we don't quite see that often, and it probably wasn't until sometime in 2008 that we started to see such frequency and giant volume coming through. So anyway, high volume, that's how you know that there's institutional side activity coming through, which there certainly is, because the volume is way, way, way above the average, and that's your clue right there. The other important thing to note too is that the low of that bar on this 5-minute chart was 1044 even. The bar closed at 1049.25. That's a 70% increase. That close is 70% above, 70% above the low of that bar itself. Now, you cannot have a 70% reversal in any market, in any price, in anything that there is, if there is no demand coming through. So if you don't have any buyers, you cannot have a bounce of 70%. It doesn't happen. If this was straight sellers coming through, this bar would have closed on or very near its lows of the session, and the market would have continued on downward. But the other important thing too, to validate your premise that if you have a 70% close above the low, there's buyers coming through, is if there is that much demand coming in, it's going to be removing quite a bit of supply. And what happens when your demand overcomes supply is that you have an increase in price. Well, if we take a quick look as far as what happened to price after this bar, price increased. Alright, this price cannot increase if institutional side's constantly adding supply to the market, because their supply will overcome demand and price will decrease. But we had an increase, right? So that means buyers. Now, once we got between 55 and 57, we started to see sellers come through and or demand shore up. Either way, supply exceeded demand, we had a discounting in price. We had a slight pop in price, which we called very well in chat, and it was either met with supply or demand, something ran out, but the net result was more supply than demand, hence a discounting in price. Now, this 2 o'clock area, in fact it was this bar right here, and these are Eastern times, by the way. This bar right here was, again, when Merrill Lynch came through in the buy side in the S&P futures pit and bought. Now, we know that they bought because had you been standing there, you would have seen them buy. But whoever bought or sold is irrelevant. The fact is we had an increase in price because their demand was taking out supply. How do we know that that's validated? Because we had a subsequent increase in price overall, until we got back to this area of 55 to 57, where either supply started to increase because you see an increase in volume and we had some pressure come down. That sell side activity stripped demand, overcame demand, and resulted in a discounting of price. Now, the important thing to see here is that on the close, we see another exceptionally high volume bar. It's 100,000 contracts come through. And if we take a look at this bar, that closed just off its high. So if I look at my handy little indicator here, is 83.3% above the low of that bar. So just like we saw during the home sales number, you can't have any market or any price, bar. Basically, your bar that you look at, that's a 5-minute market. That's as far as that's the net result of the 5 minutes, right? So you can't have a reversal of 83% above the low, off the low, if there's no buyers coming through. But the other thing to note too is the exceptionally high volume is what we talked about before as far as institutional activity. So not only do we have institutional activity, we also have a substantial amount of institutional activity that's on the buy side. How do we know it's on the buy side? Well, the same way we know that it's on the buy side over here. Price has been discounted on high volume, and they came back in on the buy side because the price closed up. Same thing over here. They came back in on the buy side. Price is already discounted. Now, how do we know that? Well, we can validate that from how we validate everything else. We take a look at what's going on right now. We're having an increase in price. If this was a all sell side down here, another 100,000 contracts, we would again see further declines in prices. Now, some people say, well, look at all what's happening right here. I can tell you what, during the Globex session after the pit closes, there's no volume whatsoever, so it's very, very easy to overcome anything that you want during this period of time. It doesn't take any buying power whatsoever. But what is important to note, though, is that you see this bar right here where, again, there was a probe lower, a test of demand, basically. And this level between 47 and 48 was met with demand because this bar closed up off the low, and we saw a subsequent increase in price. If this was all institutional side selling, we would not have these increases in price. We would have declines in price, further declines in price, further discounting. So what does this mean? This doesn't mean that the market's going to rally instantly right away, but this does tell you that the institutional side is coming in, that they are active in the market right now, and they are buying. They're taking long positions and or covering short positions from before. Now, some people may say, well, how do you know that, price is so discounted? How do you know it won't go down more? Well, we can take a look. Actually, let me, bring this in a little bit. Here's a 5-minute chart. Where we came from was 1080 quarter up here, back on, the 23rd. So we've had it's a 40 handle reduction. 36 handle reduction in price. 36 handles discounting that just took place. Alright, so now this also helps to put things in perspective too, as far as we're already discounting price and we see this enormous volume on today relative to where we've come from. And I can't kick it back any further, but you get the idea. So anyway, to my new friends on Yahoo message board, it's totally cool that you post up my stuff and things like that. I think it's great. Thanks for the exposure. But, I'm happy to help you out to figure out how to understand and read your chart and tell you how the institutional side works and how you buy low and sell high and how to read your chart. And that's really the only point of this little exercise. So feel free, guys, to visit the message board on bidhitter.com. There's quite a bit of charts and, some other good posts that you should review and have knowledge of. In addition, we do all those recap videos every single week where we talk about the weekly change in the markets, supply and demand. We talk about exactly this topic. When is the institutional side active? What are they doing? That's all I've got for you guys. Have a great night and good luck trading the rest of the week.